First Contact's farewell. The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, buried in the noise of deep space radio signals. Dr. Sarah Chen was halfway through her second cup of coffee when the pattern recognition algorithms at the Arecibo HFY Deep Space Array flagged something unusual. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed what she'd found: a massive fleet of ships, moving with purpose directly toward Earth. But humanity didn't panic. They didn't scramble. Instead, Sarah smiled as she sent a single command that activated Project Exodus, a plan centuries in the making. Begin Phase 1. She transmitted globally. Operation Looking Glass is now active. Across Earth, hidden quantum computers hummed to life. In underground cities that had masqueraded as subway systems, millions of people calmly began their rehearsed evacuations. Children picked up their adventure packs, excited for what their parents had always described as humanity's greatest game of hide-and-seek. The approaching Meridian Empire fleet, led by High Commander Vexthal, expected to find a primitive civilization scrambling in terror at their approach. Instead, their long-range scanners detected something unprecedented: the systematic shutdown of an entire civilization. Impossible, Vexthal muttered, his crystalline eyes focusing on the readings. No species has ever. But humanity had. For 3 centuries, they'd prepared for this moment. Not with weapons or shields, but with something far more sophisticated: the ability to simply step sideways out of harm's way. In Washington, D.C., the president delivered her final address from an Oval Office that was already beginning to fade from reality. Today, we implement what our ancestors prepared for. Not with violence, not with fear, but with the greatest feat of human ingenuity ever attempted. To our visitors, we leave you not in defeat, but in demonstration of what humanity does best. We adapt. We evolve. We transcend. The Meridian fleet arrived to find cities that seemed to flicker between existence and non-existence. Buildings stood both ancient and new, occupied and empty, real and unreal. Every attempt to scan Earth's population resulted in readings that somehow showed humanity existing at all points in time simultaneously. In orbit, Vexthal's science officer, Caleth, struggled to make sense of the readings. Sir, they're quantum shifting their entire civilization, not just moving through space, but through time itself, Vexthal finished, a note of awe in his voice. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They'd transformed their entire species. Each human now existed as a quantum probability wave, able to shift between different temporal states at will. They hadn't built a defensive shield around their planet. They turned their entire civilization into a state of temporal uncertainty. In Central Park, New York, a young girl named Maya played hopscotch, her form shifting between solid and translucent as she skipped through time itself. She waved at the alien ships above, her laughter echoing across multiple temporal planes simultaneously. The Meridian Empire's mighty fleet found themselves facing not cowering primitives, but a civilization that had transformed the very nature of their existence into an impenetrable defense. Every attempt to lock onto a human target resulted in temporal feedback that threatened to tear their ships apart. Sarah Chen, now existing across several quantum states herself, sent the final message to the alien fleet: "We welcome peaceful contact with all species, but we chose long ago not to fight wars. Instead, we learned to dance between the moments, to exist in the spaces between seconds. You can't conquer what you can't catch, and humanity has learned to run forever." As the message transmitted, the last visible signs of human civilization began to fade, not into destruction or death, but into a state of temporal flux that no conventional force could touch. Humanity hadn't just prepared for invasion. They'd evolved beyond the very concept of it. Vexthal watched as Earth itself seemed to smile at them, its cities now existing in a quantum superposition that made them both eternally present and forever untouchable. His mighty fleet, designed to conquer through force, found itself powerless against a species that had conquered time itself. In her quantum-shifted state, Sarah Chen looked back at the alien fleet and whispered, "Welcome to Earth. We hope you learned something from finding us and losing us." The Meridian fleet hung in orbit around a planet that now existed in all temporal states at once, a monument to a civilization that had chosen to transcend rather than fight, to evolve rather than destroy. They had come expecting to find primitives, and instead discovered beings who had mastered the art of quantum existence itself. Earth remained, but humanity had become living proof that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in standing your ground, but in learning to dance beyond the very boundaries of reality itself. The quantum dance. Admiral Vexthal's research team spread across Earth's surface, their advanced sensors struggling to make sense of what they found. Each city existed in a state of quantum flux, simultaneously abandoned and teeming with life, ancient and newly built, present and absent. In what was once Tokyo, lead researcher Zinra reached out to touch a holographic advertisement that flickered between time states. Her sensor suite registered it as being both activated yesterday and 3 centuries ago. "Sir," she communicated to Vexthal, "they didn't just develop this technology recently. They've been laying the groundwork for generations." The evidence was everywhere. Beneath London's streets, they found quantum accelerators disguised as subway tracks, each one capable of shifting millions of people through temporal states. Paris's Eiffel Tower revealed itself to be an enormous temporal antenna, broadcasting quantum signals across multiple dimensions of time. They hid their true advancement in plain sight, Zinra reported, examining what appeared to be a children's playground. The simple swings and slides were actually miniature quantum field generators designed to gradually expose human children to temporal shifting from an early age. They weren't building weapons. They were evolving their entire species. In orbit, Vexthal received increasingly bewildering reports. His fleet's sensors detected human quantum signatures scattered across not just space, but time itself. They appeared to be everywhere and nowhere, existing in a superposition that made them impossible to track or contain. A junior officer burst into his command center, holding a device found in what remained of a human classroom. "Sir, you need to see this." The device projected what appeared to be a simple children's lesson, teaching basic quantum mechanics through nursery rhymes. The date stamp showed it was from over 200 years ago. They've been preparing their children for this since before they developed spaceflight, Vexthal realized. Every game, every story, every piece of their culture was designed to prepare them for quantum existence. Deep in the Rocky Mountains, Zinra's team discovered vast chambers filled with quantum computers. But unlike the Meridian Empire's rigid military technology, these machines showed signs of organic growth. They hadn't just built quantum computers, they'd grown them, letting the systems evolve alongside human consciousness. "Sir," Zinra's voice trembled slightly as she reported her findings. "These aren't evacuation plans we're finding. They're transformation protocols. Humanity didn't flee. They transcended. They wrote themselves into the quantum fabric of reality." In what was once Harvard University, they found libraries where books existed in quantum superposition, their knowledge simultaneously preserved across all possible timelines. Each human child had grown up with access to both current science and knowledge from futures that hadn't happened yet. The Meridian Empire had expected to find a primitive species huddling behind crude defenses. Instead, they found the remnants of a civilization that had turned its entire existence into an art form, dancing between moments of time with the casual ease of breathing. A message appeared on every screen in the fleet, shifting between different temporal states, but always clear. "We haven't hidden ourselves away. We've become what we were always meant to be. Look closely. We're still here, watching, learning, growing. We exist in the quantum foam between moments, in the spaces between thoughts. You can't conquer what you can't comprehend, and we've become comprehension itself." Vexthal watched as his science teams struggled to analyze human technology that seemed to operate on principles that violated their understanding of physics. The humans hadn't just mastered quantum mechanics, they'd transcended it, turning their entire species into living quantum computers. In a park in what was once Seattle, Zenra found a group of quantum-shifted children's toys that still moved and played, caught in a temporal loop of eternal joy. They hadn't abandoned their humanity in their evolution. They'd preserved its very essence across all possible timelines. "They're still here," she reported, watching as quantum patterns danced across her sensors. "They're everywhere and everyone. They've turned their entire civilization into a quantum consciousness that exists across all possible realities." As the Meridian fleet orbited Earth, they began to understand that they hadn't found a planet to conquer. They'd stumbled upon a species that had evolved beyond the very concept of physical conquest. Humanity hadn't fled in fear. They had ascended to a state of existence that made traditional concepts of war and conquest meaningless. The quantum signatures of human consciousness continued to dance across their sensors, a testament to a species that had chosen to become something entirely new rather than bow to any force of arms. They had transformed their greatest weakness, their physical vulnerability, into an expression of ultimate transcendence. Echoes of tomorrow. The Meridian Empire's greatest quantum physicists arrived on Earth 3 weeks after first contact, drawn by readings that defied their understanding of reality. What they found left them questioning everything they thought they knew about consciousness and existence. Dr. Caleth, the Empire's leading expert on quantum mechanics, stood in the ruins of Searnan, her sensors detecting patterns that shouldn't have been possible. "They didn't just master quantum entanglement," she reported to Admiral Vexthal. "They found a way to entangle consciousness itself with the quantum field." The evidence was in their DNA. Human genetic samples showed signs of carefully engineered quantum receptors, built up over centuries of subtle manipulation. Each generation had been slightly more attuned to quantum fields than the last, a transformation so gradual that no outside observer would have noticed. "Look at their entertainment," her assistant pointed out, examining archived human media. What seemed like simple science fiction showed increasingly accurate depictions of quantum physics principles. They were teaching themselves how to think in quantum terms before they even had the technology. In what was once Silicon Valley, they found quantum processors that operated on biological principles, merging organic neural networks with quantum computing. But it was in the residential areas that they found the most startling revelations. Every home, Caleth reported, every single human dwelling, had quantum field generators disguised as ordinary appliances. Their microwave ovens were conducting quantum experiments. Their children's nightlights were generating quantum entanglement fields. They turned their entire civilization into a quantum laboratory. The Meridian scientists discovered that human cities hadn't been built according to traditional urban planning. They were vast quantum circuits, their layout carefully designed to generate and channel quantum fields. The humans had transformed their entire infrastructure into a quantum computer of unprecedented scale. Messages continued to appear across their systems, each one existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. "We didn't hide our technology because we were afraid you'd steal it. We hid it because we knew you wouldn't understand it. How do you explain quantum consciousness to beings who still think in linear terms?" In a quantum-shifted playground, Caleth's team found children's drawings that existed in superposition, artwork that changed depending on when and how it was observed. The humans hadn't just taught their children about quantum mechanics, they taught them to think and create in quantum terms. They've become living wave functions. Caleth explained to Vexthal. Each human consciousness now exists as a quantum probability field, able to collapse into reality at any point in space-time they choose. They're not gone. They've become something our sensors can barely detect, let alone understand. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, they found vast networks of quantum-entangled coral, carefully grown over centuries to create a biological quantum computer that spanned the globe. The humans had turned Earth's biosphere itself into a quantum processing network. The Meridian Empire's greatest military advantage had always been their quantum technology. But here they found a species that had taken quantum mechanics to its logical extreme, using it not just as a tool but as a path to transcendence. A quantum-shifted message appeared in Caleth's private quarters. Your empire sees quantum technology as a means to power. We saw it as a path to evolution. You built quantum computers. We became them. The scientists watched in awe as human quantum signatures danced across their instruments, showing patterns that suggested the entire species now existed in a state of quantum superposition. Their consciousness spread across multiple dimensions of space and time. They're not just observing multiple realities, Caleth realized. They're experiencing them all simultaneously. They've become living embodiments of quantum uncertainty, existing everywhere and nowhere, in every possible state at once. In what was once the New York Public Library, they found quantum-shifted books that contain knowledge from multiple timelines, histories that hadn't happened yet, sciences that hadn't been discovered, futures that were still in flux. The humans had turned their entire cultural heritage into a quantum archive of infinite possibilities. As the Meridian scientists struggled to comprehend the scope of human achievement, they began to understand that they hadn't found a primitive species to conquer. They'd encountered beings who had transformed themselves into something that transcended traditional concepts of existence itself. The humans hadn't just evolved, they had rewritten the very rules of consciousness and reality. The Great Awakening. The Meridian High Council convened an emergency session in orbit around Earth, their mighty fleet now reduced to the role of bewildered observers. The quantum signatures of human activity had begun to spread beyond Earth, appearing across the solar system in patterns that defied conventional understanding. Admiral Vexthal stood before the council, his report causing ripples of unease through the assembled leaders. They're not just everywhere, he explained. They're everyone. And they're teaching. Across the fleet, crew members reported strange occurrences. Quantum-shifted messages appeared in their personal quarters, offering insights into quantum mechanics that made their most advanced theories seem primitive. Engineering crews found their systems, subtly optimized by unseen hands, improved by knowledge that seemed to come from countless possible futures. They're not hiding from us anymore, Dr. Caleth announced to the council. They're reaching out, but not in any way we expected. She projected a series of quantum readings that showed human consciousness signatures gradually approaching their ships, like teachers carefully approaching frightened students. On Mars, they found entire cities that shifted between quantum states, built centuries ago in preparation for humanity's transformation. The humans hadn't just planned for survival, they'd prepared for expansion across time and space itself. A message materialized in the council chamber, existing simultaneously in every known language of the Empire. Your arrival was never a threat to us. It was an opportunity, a chance to share what we've learned. Your weapons cannot harm what we've become, but your minds. Your minds are ready to understand. Council member Zaxel, known for his militant stance, rose to object, but stopped mid-sentence. Through the quantum field, he had felt something. A brush of human consciousness against his own, sharing in an instant understanding that would have taken years to convey through conventional means. They're offering to teach us, Caleth realized, her own consciousness beginning to resonate with the quantum fields humanity had created, not to surrender their secrets, but to help us grow beyond the need for conquest. The humans began to appear more frequently, their quantum-shifted forms visible as shimmering patterns of probability. They moved through the Meridian ships as easily as thought, their presence neither threatening nor submissive, but quietly instructive. In the heart of the Meridian flagship, a quantum-shifted human child played with streams of probability like they were ribbons in the wind, demonstrating to amazed scientists how consciousness could dance between moments of time. We spent centuries preparing for this, came another message, resonating through the quantum field. Not for war, not for conquest, but for the moment when we could show another species that the true frontier isn't space. It's consciousness itself. The Meridian Empire had come seeking to conquer a world, but found themselves confronted with a truth that made conquest meaningless. The humans had transcended not just physical form, but the very concepts of conflict and dominance that had driven the Empire's expansion. Through quantum-shifted laboratories that spanned multiple realities, humanity began to share their understanding. They showed how consciousness could exist across multiple quantum states, how awareness could expand beyond the limitations of linear time and space. Admiral Vexthal watched as his crew members began to change, their minds opening to possibilities they had never imagined. The humans hadn't just evolved themselves, they had created a path that others could follow, a way of existence that transformed the very meaning of civilization. "Your empire stretches across space," a quantum-shifted voice echoed through the council chamber. "But we can show you how to stretch across possibility itself." This was never about survival or resistance. It was about reaching the point where we could help others take the next step. The Meridian Council found themselves facing a choice that was no choice at all. The humans hadn't defeated them. They had opened a door that could never be closed, showing them a path to evolution that made their previous ambitions seem like children's games. As quantum understanding spread through the fleet, the boundaries between human and Meridian consciousness began to blur. They weren't losing themselves. They were becoming something more, guided by beings who had turned transcendence itself into an art form. The Great Meridian Fleet, which had arrived as conquerors, now hung in space as students, their mighty weapons forgotten as they learned to reach across quantum fields with their minds. Humanity had achieved what no defense could have accomplished. They had transformed their would-be conquerors into fellow explorers of consciousness itself. Legacy of Light. A year after first contact, the Meridian Empire's reports to their homeworlds defied belief. Earth had become the center of something unprecedented. Not an empire of space, but an empire of consciousness. The humans, existing in their quantum-shifted state, had transformed their solar system into a vast school of transcendence. In the rings of Saturn, quantum-shifted academies taught beings from across the galaxy how to extend their consciousness beyond physical form. Jupiter's storms hosted laboratories where students learned to perceive and exist across multiple quantum states simultaneously. Even Mercury's scarred surface had become a testing ground for newly awakened quantum consciousness. Admiral Vexthal, now more student than commander, stood on a quantum-shifted observation deck that existed across several realities at once. "We thought we were advanced," he communicated to the High Council, "but we were like children playing with building blocks, thinking we had mastered architecture." The humans appeared and disappeared throughout the solar system, their quantum-shifted forms now easily visible to those who had learned to see beyond conventional reality. They were teachers, guides, and living examples of what consciousness could become when freed from the limitations of linear existence. Dr. Caleth, whose understanding of quantum mechanics had evolved beyond her wildest dreams, worked alongside human scientists in probability spaces that defied conventional physics. "They didn't just master quantum mechanics," she reported. "They became living embodiments of quantum possibility itself." The great fleet that had arrived to conquer now served as a bridge between old and new ways of being. Ships that once carried weapons had been transformed into quantum resonance chambers, helping other species take their first steps toward transcendence. Through quantum-shifted archives that spanned countless possible timelines, humanity shared their journey. They showed how they had gradually prepared their entire species for this evolution, how every aspect of their civilization had been carefully designed to awaken quantum consciousness. "We knew others would come," the quantum-shifted form of Dr. Sarah Chen explained to a group of Meridian students. "We knew they would come seeking conquest or commerce or knowledge. We prepared not to fight them, not to hide from them, but to show them that the true frontier lies within consciousness itself." The impact rippled across the galaxy. Species that had once competed for resources and territory found themselves drawn to Earth, not for its physical assets, but for the transformation it offered. The humans had created something unprecedented, a civilization that transcended the physical entirely. In quantum-shifted spaces throughout the solar system, children from 1,000 worlds played together, their consciousness dancing between states of possibility as naturally as their ancestors had walked or run. They were the first generation to grow up understanding that physical form was just one way of being. The Meridian Empire, once the greatest military force in known space, began to transform. Their worlds turned from conquest to exploration, not of space, but of consciousness itself. The humans had shown them that true power lay not in domination, but in transcendence. "We never needed to defeat you," came a message that resonated through quantum fields across the galaxy. "We just needed to show you what you could become." The message existed simultaneously in every language, every form of communication, a testament to consciousness that had evolved beyond conventional barriers. Earth itself had become something new, not just a planet, but a nexus of quantum consciousness that existed across multiple states of reality. The cities that had once seemed abandoned now pulsed with life and learning, visible to those who had learned to perceive across quantum states. In the quantum-shifted spaces between moments, humanity continued to evolve, exploring states of existence that pushed the boundaries of what consciousness could achieve. They had become living bridges between the physical and the quantum, showing others the path to transcendence. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that had learned to run forever had done more than escape. They had transformed the very nature of existence itself. They had shown that the greatest adventure wasn't the conquest of space or time, but the infinite exploration of consciousness itself. As quantum understanding spread across the galaxy, the old barriers between species and civilizations began to fade. In their place arose something new, a quantum-shifted cosmos where consciousness danced between states of possibility, where beings existed across multiple realities simultaneously, and where the only frontier left to explore was the infinite potential of awareness itself. Earth, once a target for conquest, had become a beacon of transformation, a living testament to what consciousness could achieve when it dared to evolve beyond the boundaries of conventional existence. The humans hadn't just survived. They had shown the galaxy how to transcend survival itself, opening the door to a new chapter in the evolution of consciousness.